There are journeys that can only be taken in silence, with no one but yourself. Sometimes walking alone isn't a sign of isolation, but of growth. Because the one who learns to be with themselves, without running away, without drowning in noise, becomes unstoppable. Not everyone will understand your path, but they're not meant to walk it with you. Remember, he who walks alone goes further. There's a kind of power that doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to be shown off, and doesn't need applause. It's the kind that is born when you learn to be alone and stop seeing it as a weakness and start seeing it as an opportunity. In this video, we're going to explore powerful lessons from Stoicism, lessons that have guided those who understood that real strength doesn't come from the outside, but from inner calm. Lessons that invite you to stop looking outside for what you can only build within. Because once you learn to walk without depending on others, you begin to make different decisions. Firmer, more honest, more yours. If you've ever felt that loneliness was heavy, just wait until you see what it can teach you. Tell me something. When was the last time you truly chose yourself? Not for what others expect of you, but for what you really need. Maybe you've been putting yourself last for too long, afraid of being alone or of disappointing others. If this speaks to you, subscribe and join this Stoic community. And tell me in the comments, what part of yourself have you been ignoring? Or just write, "Today I choose to walk by my side." If you find this content valuable, I invite you to leave your mark. Share in the comments if you're ready to learn how to live without anyone, or simply say, "Stoic at heart." Let's make this space a place where we can all grow and strengthen ourselves together. Let's get started. Lesson 1. Discover who you are when everything goes quiet. Have you ever felt like you know yourself, but deep down you suspect you've barely scratched the surface? Have you ever had the sense that there are parts of you you avoid looking at, like if you don't think about them, they might stop existing? Or worse, have you realized you've spent years repeating the same behaviors without knowing why? If so, you're not alone. We all go through this, and still, very few of us dare to stay alone with our thoughts long enough to uncover what's beneath the surface. And if you've ever tried to truly get to know yourself, you'll know it's not as easy as it sounds. As Epictetus warned, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. That line hits straight at our comfort zone, because as long as we're convinced we already know ourselves, we'll avoid the most uncomfortable part of all, seeing ourselves without filters. And only those who dare to do that can begin to build from a place of truth. Socrates' story makes it clearer than any theory ever could. It said he would spend long hours in silence, not to shut out the world, but to observe it from the inside. His famous phrase, "Know thyself," wasn't just a nice quote to carve into a temple wall. It was a way of life. He believed that anyone who doesn't understand themselves ends up a slave to their impulses, desires, and fears. And there's nothing more dangerous than walking through life without knowing which voice is guiding your steps. Marcus Aurelius had a habit that many today would find uncomfortable. Every night he would review his thoughts, decisions, and reactions from the day. He didn't do it to punish himself, but to understand, to see why he got angry, why he acted with ego, or what he did well. That constant practice of introspection was, for him, as important as preparing for any battle. Because if you don't know yourself, you can't govern yourself. And if you can't govern yourself, you'll struggle to inspire true respect through your actions. So now I want you to think about yourself. Maybe your days are full of noise, work, messages, social media, conversations, and in the middle of all that, there's no space left to actually hear yourself. But self-knowledge doesn't happen in crowds. It happens in silence, in those moments when you choose to stay with yourself, even if you don't like what you see. Because it's in that discomfort where real transformation begins. There are many ways to start that path. For example, each night write down 3 things you discovered about yourself that day, even if they're not pretty. Today I realized I struggle to say sorry. Today I noticed I avoid hard conversations. Today I saw how much I seek approval. You can also try doing new things alone, like traveling by yourself or signing up for a class that pushes you out of your comfort zone. These experiences reveal sides of you you hadn't met yet. And even though it might sound strange, speaking to yourself out loud can help you hear what you really think, without the filter of routine. When you choose to get to know yourself, you'll see that silence isn't the enemy. It's a mirror. And the clearer that reflection becomes, the more confidently you'll walk, without needing to shout or impose. Because authentic respect doesn't come from noise, but from the calm and clarity of someone who knows who they are. Now here's a question for you to reflect on, and I'd love for you to answer it in the comments. What part of yourself are you ready to discover today? And if you'd rather keep it simple, write, "Today I begin to truly know myself." Lesson 2. Not everyone deserves space in your mind. My friend, think of your mind like a brand new phone. At first it runs fast, the battery lasts for hours, and everything is clean. But little by little you start allowing in notifications from everywhere. One app asks for permission, then another, and before you know it, your phone's buzzing every 2 minutes. Alerts you don't need, messages that don't matter, pointless reminders. The result? The memory gets full, the battery drains, and the phone slows down. Now tell me, how can you think like a Stoic if your mind is full of pointless notifications? Not even Marcus Aurelius could have written his meditations with 20 alerts popping up every minute. Every time you let in a shallow comment, an empty critique, or an opinion you never asked for, it's like installing another useless app running in the background. You don't notice it at first, but one day you wake up tired, unfocused, and overwhelmed. And no, this isn't about walking through life with armor, cut off from the world. It's about having a filter. Because not everything you hear deserves your attention. Not every comment needs a reply. Not every person has earned the right to have an opinion on your life. The Stoics taught us this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You are what you think about each day. Guard your thoughts like a sacred flame," and it's true. If you let just anyone blow on that flame, your fire will go out. If the wrong voices get into your head, your inner calm gets burned. Let me give you a very real example. You post a photo on social media, nothing dramatic, just you eating an ice cream after a long day. Then comes the comment, "You should take better care of yourself. Don't complain later," and now there you are, phone in hand, half-melted ice cream, and a brick in your stomach. What actually happened? Nothing. Just a random sentence. But you gave it a seat in your mental home, as if that person had the right to shape your choices. Or picture this. You're at a family lunch, excitedly sharing a new project you're about to start, and someone mutters, "That's really hard. It probably won't work out." You could laugh it off, but instead, you spend the rest of the afternoon turning it over in your head. And the worst part, you can't even remember the last time that person took a risk themselves, yet somehow, they get to live rent-free in your mind, like they earned the right to be there. That's where the Stoics would have drawn the line. Epictetus said it clearly, "If you give your peace away to what others say, you become a slave to every passing word." And tell me, isn't it time you reclaimed that freedom? So how do you start? First, change your reaction. When an empty comment shows up, breathe. See it like any other notification. Reply with a simple, "All right," or don't reply at all. No need to argue. No need to explain. Because your peace is worth more than any clever comeback. Next, try this Stoic filter. Does this person pay rent in my mind? Do they actually have a meaningful place in your life? Or do they just pop in to throw opinions and disappear? If the answer is no, why are you giving them so much space? You can also train your mind with a practical exercise. Picture your mental space like an exclusive Airbnb. Make a list of the voices that deserve to stay, the ones that inspire you, support you, remind you who you are. And next to that, write down the ones that only leave a mess, the empty critiques, the unfair comparisons, the whining that never builds anything. Each time a negative voice shows up, imagine yourself closing the door in its face. Sounds simple, but it's a powerful reminder. Your mind is not for rent. And don't get me wrong, this isn't about ignoring everything. A good, thoughtful critique can be a gift. The difference lies in knowing who's speaking. someone who lifts you up, or someone who's just projecting their own noise. One deserves space, the other doesn't. In the end, your inner peace depends on who you let sit at your mental table. And if your mind feels more like a noisy bar than a quiet refuge, it's not because life is chaotic, it's because you opened the door without filtering. Remember this, my friend. Your mind isn't a hotel where anyone can come and go. It's your refuge, your temple. You decide who gets to enter. Because once you learn to shut that door, strange as it sounds, that's when you really begin to open the path to freedom. The kind where you live alone, move forward, and finally truly win in life. Now tell me, what outside opinion weighs on you the most? And which one do you need to stop carrying? Write it in the comments. And if you want to make it clear that you're starting to protect your inner space, write, "My mind is my refuge." Lesson 3. Choose your path. Even if no one approves, Epictetus used to repeat it again and again to his students. No one can decide for you what is good or bad for your life. And he was right. Because the moment you give up your decisions, you give up control over your destiny. And yet, my friend, that's exactly what many of us do without even realizing it. We follow careers we didn't choose, stay in places we don't want to be, and silence dreams that have been knocking from the inside for years, just out of fear of disappointing someone. Let me tell you the story of Mary Anning. She was born in the 19th century in a small coastal village in the south of England. Her family was poor. They barely had enough to live on, and the future ahead of her was as narrow as the streets she grew up in. But Mary had a dream that, in her time, bordered on madness. She wanted to search for fossils, not for money or fame, but because she had an endless curiosity about the past buried beneath the earth. The problem? Science wasn't a place for women. People mocked her, slammed doors in her face, laughed at her hobby, and even told her she should leave that to the men. But Mary didn't listen. Every morning she went out alone to the cliffs with her tools, while the rest of the town thought she was wasting her time. For months she came back empty-handed, but she didn't quit. And one day, buried under tons of rock, she found something that would change history: fossilized remains of sea creatures never seen before. She didn't need approval to keep going. She didn't wait for permission to continue. She walked alone for years, enduring ridicule, silence, and indifference. And because of that, she went further than anyone expected. The very world that rejected her ended up honoring her work, and today, history remembers her as the mother of modern paleontology. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Live according to your nature, not someone else's." There's no better way to describe the freedom that comes from choosing your own path, even if no one understands it. It means daring to disappoint expectations, to challenge inherited scripts, and to endure the looks from people who don't understand your direction. Because if every step you take is designed to please others, you'll end up walking in circles. And here's a hard truth. If you want to go far, you're going to have to walk alone more than once. Your path will be questioned, your vision will seem strange, and there will be decisions only you can justify. If you want to go further, stop asking for permission to do so. Before making any important decision, ask yourself honestly, does this reflect who I am, or just what others expect from me? Accept that some people won't understand your path, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you. And remember this, a mistake made by your own choice teaches you more than a success handed to you by someone else, because at least it was your experience, your lesson, your growth. Walking alone isn't always comfortable, but that's where true respect is born. Not the kind you demand by shouting, but the kind that radiates from the quiet confidence of someone who trusts their steps. And as you leave your footprints on that path, you'll realize you don't need them to be applauded. It's enough to know they're yours. Now tell me, are you willing to choose your destiny even if no one understands it? Share it in the comments with this phrase, "I walk by my decisions, not their expectations." Because in the end, the one who dares to choose their own path doesn't just go further, they become the true owner of their life. Lesson 4. Silence is your greatest ally. There's immense power in silence. I know it sounds contradictory in a world overflowing with noise, notifications, comments, and opinions around every corner. But let me share a secret with you. Silence is a far stronger ally than you think. It's the space where answers emerge that words can never provide, and where your mind can finally find rest and clarity. Think about it. You spend your day surrounded by noise. Not just the traffic or conversations, but the constant mental chatter, worries, endless to-do lists, and opinions swirling in your head. It's like having a swarm of bees buzzing relentlessly. How can you think clearly amidst all that chaos? This is where the power of silence comes in. When you give yourself the space to be still, it's as if that swarm begins to fade, leaving your mind calm and clear. Now, let's dive deeper. Have you ever wondered why silence feels so uncomfortable? The Stoics understood this better than anyone. For them, silence wasn't just about being quiet. It was a tool, a way to conquer their inner chaos. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And it's true. How many times has your mind created problems that don't even exist, simply because you didn't give it a moment of calm to sort itself out? It's like trying to see your reflection in a disturbed lake. The image will never be clear. But when the water settles, that's when you truly see. Marcus Aurelius knew this too. He took moments of silence amidst political and personal battles because he understood that a noisy mind is a weak mind. Silence was his mental armor, his way of staying strong and focused. So, my friend, embracing silence isn't just a philosophical whim, it's a life strategy. Here's an interesting fact. Recent studies have shown that silence has concrete benefits for the brain. Researchers at Finland's National Institute of Health found that 2 hours of silence a day can stimulate the growth of new brain cells in the hippocampus, the area linked to memory and emotions. See? Silence isn't just a pause, it's an investment in your mental well-being. Think about it. If you're always surrounded by noise, you'll never have the space to truly listen to your own thoughts, your real needs and desires. Learn to carve out moments of silence, a walk without music, a quiet time at home with the TV off, or even a few minutes of calm breathing. In those moments, you'll find the clarity you've been searching for. You don't need anything or anyone to experience the power of silence. It's always there, waiting for you to embrace it. The next time life feels overwhelming, don't seek more noise, more distractions. Seek silence. Let it be your refuge, your source of calm and strength. Because in the end, silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's the space where everything becomes clear and where you can finally hear what your heart has been trying to tell you. Lesson 5. Change the voice you speak to yourself with. My friend, let me tell you something you might have never dared to admit. You're ruthless with yourself, not with others. You treat them with patience, with understanding, even with tenderness. But when it comes to you, the voice you hear inside is harsh, relentless, cruel. One small mistake is enough to bring out the whip. I'm useless. I always mess things up. I'm a disaster. The Stoics already knew that this inner voice can be your greatest ally, or your worst enemy. Marcus Aurelius wrote it in his Meditations. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And if your thoughts are a battlefield, don't expect peace in your daily life. Let me give you a familiar scene. You go to the supermarket with a short mental list: milk and toilet paper. You leave with 3 full bags: cookies, chips, a scented candle, a bottle of wine. But no milk, no toilet paper. And then the storm begins. How can I be so absent-minded? Same as always, I'm useless. Why do I even bother? The strange part? If someone close to you forgot the exact same thing, you'd be the first to say, it's no big deal, happens to everyone. But because it's you, out comes the whip, and you don't stop beating yourself up. Now imagine that voice speaking to you wasn't internal, but came from someone else. That every time you slipped up, someone sent you a message saying, you're clumsy, you're worthless. What would you do? You'd block them instantly. You'd cut them out of your life without hesitation. But because that voice comes from inside, you let it stay. And meanwhile, it shapes how you live. Epictetus warned us of something crucial. It's not things themselves that harm us, but what we say to ourselves about them. That's the difference between a harmless mistake and a personal condemnation. Forgotten milk is just forgotten milk. The problem starts when your mind turns it into proof that you're a failure. And no, this isn't about lying to yourself with empty phrases like, "I can handle anything." It's about changing the tone, adjusting how you speak to yourself. Think about someone you love deeply. Would you say to them what you say to yourself? If your best friend made a mistake, would you call them useless? Of course not. You'd show them compassion, and you deserve the same. Try a simple exercise, the mirror dialogue. Stand in front of a mirror, or use your phone camera, and repeat phrases you'd say to someone you love if they were in your shoes. You're trying. It's okay to make mistakes. You deserve rest today. Then compare that to what you usually say to yourself. The contrast between the two voices will be staggering. You can also try switching narrators. Imagine your life is being narrated by someone else, your grandmother, your future self, or even the calm voice of a documentary narrator. Instead of hearing your own harsh judgment, try listening to, "Today they gave it their best. They made a mistake, but they continue on with courage." It may feel like a game, but it changes how you interpret your reality. And if you still doubt how important this is, think of Marcus Aurelius writing his meditations each night. He didn't do it to insult himself or point fingers. He did it to train his mind with words that made him stronger. Don't imagine the most powerful emperor in the world writing, "I'm a mess. I bet tomorrow everything will go wrong." No. What he did was plant in his mind the kind of words that reminded him of who he wanted to be. That's the lesson. What you repeat to yourself today becomes what you are tomorrow. I know changing that voice isn't easy. It's been living in your head for years, criticizing every step you take. But think about this. If you can give it a break, just for one day, if you can get it to stop yelling and start supporting you, you'll feel something close to what we're reaching for in this video. To live alone, move forward, and always win in life. Because that kind of victory doesn't come from conquering the world. It comes from quieting the noise you create inside. Sixth lesson. Walk at your own pace without looking sideways. Imagine you're rowing upstream. The current pushes hard, and you see many others floating effortlessly downstream. They move faster, yes, but they're not choosing where they're going. You, on the other hand, grip the oar with determination, because you know that direction is up to you, not the flow. And that's exactly what the Stoics believed, that life isn't measured by speed, but by intention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The perfection of character is to live each day as if it were your last, without hurry and without pretending." Walking at your own pace means just that, acting with calm, without being dragged by the rush of those running without knowing where to. And that means that as long as your speed depends on someone else's rhythm, you're still tied to their expectations. Walking at your pace means knowing when to speed up and when to slow down, without guilt. It means having the serenity to wait when the time isn't right, and the determination to move when you know it is. There's no rush when the path is yours, because every step, even the small ones, is real. My friend, think of how many times you've compared yourself to someone else, to the one whose business is growing faster, to the one who got married earlier, to the one who seems to have everything figured out while you feel like you're falling behind. But the truth is, life isn't a synchronized race. Each of us has our own timeline, our own mountains to climb, and our own moments to bloom. When you understand this, you stop looking sideways and start enjoying the journey. And you realize that respect isn't earned by running faster than anyone. It's earned by walking with purpose, without losing your calm or betraying your path. If you feel that constant pressure to keep up with everyone, remember that the goal isn't to arrive fast, it's to arrive as yourself. Set long-term goals and measure your progress by comparing it to your own yesterday, not someone else's success. Take mindful pauses, not to doubt yourself, but to realign your direction. and celebrate every step forward, even the tiniest ones, because they are the ones that carry you through the long road. Seneca said it clearly, "No wind is favorable for the one who doesn't know where they're going." If your pace matches your purpose, it doesn't matter whether you get there first or last. What matters is that you don't lose yourself in races that were never yours. Walking alone often means walking more slowly, yes, but also going further, because every step is real, every decision is yours, and every achievement carries your name. Lesson 7. Give your hands work and your mind rest. Picture this. You're sitting at a wooden table, the window is open. It's raining softly outside, and the smell of wet earth drifts into the room. The only sound is the steady tapping of the raindrops. In front of you, some clay, a notebook, or a few ingredients for cooking. There's no rush, no pressure. Your hands begin to move, almost on their own, and slowly, what was once only in your mind starts to take shape. In that moment, everything stops, and you feel it. Peace. That's not magic, it's presence. The Stoics already sensed that this kind of peace is found in the simple things, in returning to the moment, in making the everyday a space of freedom. Marcus Aurelius, in the chaos of ruling an empire, found calm by writing down thoughts in notebooks he never meant anyone to read. That simple act, his hand moving across the page, was his refuge. Creating with his hands, even just words, kept him grounded. And when you create with your hands, something similar happens. You come back to yourself, not the version others think you are, the real you. And in that pause, in that focus, without even realizing it, you begin to live for you again. The strange thing is, we often believe that peace only comes from huge achievements, amazing trips, or brilliant goals. But what if the calm you've been chasing isn't in the extraordinary, but in the ordinary? It might be in something as simple as chopping vegetables, sewing on a button, painting even if you don't know how, or taking care of a plant. It doesn't sound epic, I know, but it's real. Let me tell you about my friend Clara. She spent months trapped in anxiety after a tough life change. She tried meditating, reading self-help books, even signed up for a spiritual retreat. Nothing seemed to work. Until one day, almost by accident, she started embroidering. At first, she was clumsy, uneven stitches, tangled needles. But after a few days, she realized something. While she was embroidering, her thoughts stopped spinning. She focused on the thread, the colors, the movement of her hands. And when she finished, it didn't matter what she had made. What mattered was that she had found something far more valuable. A moment of real calm. Seneca would have applauded her, because he used to say we must focus on what is within our control and let go of what isn't. And what better reminder than this, literally, give your hands something to do, something you can shape. Because while your fingers are creating, your mind lets go of what can't be fixed. Want to try it? Start with whatever you have around. You don't need talent or expensive materials. If you like drawing, even just doodling, do it. If you feel like cooking, put on music and try a simple recipe. If you've got a garden or even one pot, plant something. And most importantly, turn off your phone. Because if you're checking notifications while trying to create, that's not presence. It's distraction. You can even make it a little ritual for calm. Pick a time of day, set up your space, play some music you love, and give half an hour just to that. It doesn't matter if what you make is useful, pretty, or worth showing off. In fact, it's better if it's not, because this isn't about proving anything. It's about reconnecting with yourself. And if you're thinking, I'm not good at anything with my hands, let me remind you, no one's born knowing how. But we're all born with the ability to create. Creating isn't about being an artist or making money or posting it online. It's about giving yourself permission to transform something with your hands, and in doing that, transform what's inside of you too. Believe me, sanding wood, knitting without a pattern, or slowly peeling potatoes can be more healing than any motivational video on the internet. Because when your body is busy, your mind can rest. And that, my friend, is power. Remember, creating is healing too. And if you've been searching for peace, clarity, or direction, maybe the answer isn't to make things more complicated. Maybe it's something as simple as letting your hands speak for you. Lesson 8. What you're searching for outside is already within you. Have you ever felt like your happiness depends on something out of reach? As if the peace, security, or love you're seeking is always in someone else's hands or tied to some elusive circumstance. It's frustrating, like chasing a shadow you can never catch. But let me tell you a secret. What you're searching for outside is already within you, waiting to be discovered. It's so easy to get caught in this trap. We convince ourselves that when we get the recognition, find the perfect relationship, or achieve success, we'll finally feel complete. But here's the truth. That emptiness you're trying to fill with external things will never go away unless you learn to look inward. How many times have you achieved something you longed for, only to realize the satisfaction didn't last? If your answer is too many, you're not alone. Trust me, I've been there too. We've all fallen into this cycle. Here's where it gets interesting. True fulfillment doesn't come from what you can achieve or who's by your side. It comes from what's already within you. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within, there lies the wellspring of good, and it will always flow if you keep digging." Fascinating, isn't it? How could these wise minds thousands of years ago know something we're still struggling to grasp today? Peace and happiness don't depend on external circumstances. They come from within us. Imagine your life is like a treasure chest. You spend your days searching outside, believing happiness is some jewel lost in the outside world. But in reality, everything you need has been sitting in that chest right in front of you all along. If you never open it, never explore what's inside, you'll live your life in an endless search. Trust me, what you're seeking has always been there, waiting for you to notice it. Think of someone like the Dalai Lama, a modern figure dedicated to teaching the importance of inner peace. He reminds us that true happiness isn't found in material things or the approval of others, but in nurturing our minds and hearts. It's a powerful example that introspection and inner work are the real paths to a fulfilling life. So, instead of running around trying to fill what you think is missing, why not try something different? Spend time with yourself. Pause and reflect on who you are without the labels the world has given you. Appreciate your qualities, the ones that don't depend on anyone else. Practice internal gratitude, reminding yourself that what's essential is already within you. And learn to enjoy your own company, without fear of silence or solitude. It's in those quiet moments of self-connection that you'll discover the peace you've been seeking has been with you all along. My friend, this isn't about giving up on dreams or goals. It's about understanding that you don't need anything external to feel worthy and complete. The Stoics teach us that real strength lies in accepting and appreciating who we are without relying on the whims of the world. Learn to live alone, not because you don't need anyone, but because you know that what's inside you is more than enough. 9th lesson. Free yourself from the weight of others' opinions. There's a kind of prison with no bars, yet millions live trapped inside it. The fear of what others might say. And the strange thing is, no one forces us in. We walk straight through its doors every time we hold back a dream for fear of judgment. Every time we change how we speak just to be liked. Every time we hide what we feel so we won't be rejected. We do it because we believe other people's approval gives us value, when in reality, it takes it away. Epictetus warned us with a phrase that, although uncomfortable, is deeply liberating. If you want to make progress, get used to being seen as foolish and stupid. Because as long as your worth depends on someone else's opinion, you're not living your life, you're acting in someone else's play. And the saddest part is that most of the time, you don't even know whose approval you're chasing. Living based on what others might think is like running with an open umbrella on a clear day. It's useless, it slows you down, and it doesn't protect you from anything. Because the heaviest rain doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. It's that inner voice that keeps asking, what if they laugh? What if they think I failed? What if they don't approve? that voice is the one that truly limits your freedom. As Seneca wrote, "He is a slave who lives to please others." And he was right. When you stop living to please, you begin to move forward with steady steps. You're no longer weighed down by other people's judgment, and every decision starts to feel lighter. The noise stops being an obstacle and turns into a distant echo that can no longer touch you. And in that moment, when you choose yourself over others' opinions, you realize that walking alone doesn't mean you're lost. It's actually the most direct path to getting further. Think of someone who dreams of changing their life, leaving a job, moving to a new place, starting a project. They know what they want, they feel it deeply, but they don't take the leap, not because they're not capable, but because they're afraid of disappointing their family or being judged by their friends. They spend years living up to others' expectations, and one day they wake up and don't recognize themselves. What stopped them wasn't a lack of courage, it was the fear of not being approved. And that fear, my friend, has destroyed more lives than failure ever could. If you want to break free from that weight, start today. Before making a decision, ask yourself, would I still do this if no one had an opinion about it? If the answer is yes, you're on the right path. Cut through the noise. You don't need a whole choir to validate you, just a few voices that truly care. And most importantly, practice saying no to what doesn't feel right, even if it bothers others. Now tell me, with complete honesty, what decision have you been putting off just because you're afraid of what others might think? Share it in the comments, I'd love to hear your story. Or if you prefer to say it in just one sentence, write, "Today, I walk light." Because once you learn to move forward without the weight of other people's judgment, every step brings you closer to the life you truly want. Lesson 10. Learn to talk to yourself. Yes, you heard that right. Talking to yourself isn't just for eccentrics or those quirky movie characters mumbling to themselves while everyone stares. In fact, it's a powerful tool that can change your life. Let's get real for a moment. We've been taught that talking to yourself is strange, a sign that something's wrong, but that's far from the truth. And no, I'm not suggesting you turn into the Joker, wandering the streets laughing and shouting while scaring everyone around you. What I'm saying is this: become your own advisor, someone who's always there to support and guide you. Because let's be honest, if you don't learn to talk to yourself in a healthy way, you're leaving the door open for that critical negative voice to take over. And who needs enemies when your own inner dialogue is already doing enough damage? Let me tell you a quick story. Javier worked for a big company, where every day felt like an emotional battlefield. He woke up each morning with a knot in his stomach, dreading the judgment of his coworkers and the disapproval of his bosses. At work, he felt like everything he did was under a microscope. When presenting a project, his mind would spiral with doubts. Was it good enough? What will they think of me? Meetings were even worse. Minor critiques felt like a storm of arrows piercing his confidence and leaving him drained. Day after day, the pressure and constant search for approval wore him down, like a river slowly losing its flow. One night, after an exhausting day, Javier stayed late at the office. He caught his reflection in the window and, with a deep sigh, did something he'd never done before. He talked to himself. "Why do you depend so much on them?" he asked quietly. "Don't you trust your own judgment? Haven't you gotten this far on your own effort?" In that moment, it was like a thick fog lifted from his mind. For the first time, he realized that his worst critic had always been himself. It was time to change the way he talked to himself. Without knowing it, that night, Javier changed the course of his life forever. The Stoics knew that self-talk is essential. Epictetus said, "What disturbs men is not things, but their judgments about them." This Stoic giant taught us that it's not what happens to us that affects us, but how we talk to ourselves about it. If you doubt yourself and constantly criticize your every move, you'll never be free. But if you learn to calm yourself, to forgive yourself, to allow yourself to be human, my friend, that's when your life begins to change. Marcus Aurelius, another Stoic powerhouse, had a practice that's still relevant today. Each morning he reminded himself that he'd face difficult people, challenges, and moments of uncertainty. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, he spoke to himself calmly, preparing his mind for the day. The emperor showed us that positive, proactive self-talk is a form of mental training, a way to free yourself from dependence on others. Modern science backs this up. Dr. Kristen Neff has shown that people who speak to themselves with kindness and understanding are more resilient and less prone to anxiety. Her research reveals that positive self-talk releases hormones that reduce stress and improve our ability to think clearly. So, as I said before, talking to yourself isn't something for the crazy crowd. It's a tool to become stronger and more self-reliant. How can you start incorporating this into your life? First, become aware of how you talk to yourself. When you make a mistake, instead of saying, "What a mess I am," try something like, "It's okay, everyone makes mistakes. What can I learn from this?" Next, practice talking to yourself the way you'd speak to a friend you care about. Use words of encouragement and support. Finally, set aside a few minutes each day to reflect out loud or to give yourself a pep talk for the day ahead. My friend, this habit may seem small, but it has a massive impact. Learning to talk to yourself is a step toward emotional independence. You don't need anyone else's approval if you're already your own advisor and greatest supporter. Because in the end, the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Lesson 11. Rediscover writing. When was the last time you wrote something just for yourself? Not a work report, not a social media post, but something to explore what's inside you. Believe me, writing is like a mirror that reveals truths you sometimes prefer to ignore. But it's those very truths that set you free. If you take the time to put your thoughts into words, you'll be amazed at the answers you uncover. It's like digging up a treasure that's always been there, waiting for you to find it. Writing is powerful, not just because it allows you to express your emotions, but because it helps you organize your mind. Just ask my friend Marta. We live in a world so full of distractions and noise that our thoughts often feel like a rushing river, sweeping us along without control. Writing is like building a dam to calm those turbulent waters, giving you space to reflect and understand what's really going on inside. A study from the University of Texas, led by Dr. James Pennebaker, found that writing about your emotions can improve your mental health, reduce stress, and even strengthen your immune system. When you write, you're not just unloading what weighs you down. You're organizing your thoughts and making them more manageable. Think about that. Something as simple as writing can have a profound impact on your mind and body. You don't need to be Shakespeare. Writing isn't a luxury or a talent reserved for a few geniuses. It's a tool available to everyone. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. The Stoic emperor wrote in his journal every day as a way to remind himself of what truly mattered, to keep his mind calm amidst the storms of life. He didn't write for others. He wrote for himself, as an act of self-reflection and clarity. So how can you start doing this too? Set aside a few minutes each day to write, without worrying about how it sounds or whether it makes sense to anyone else. Do it for yourself. It's a simple act of independence, a way to show you don't need anyone's approval. Write about how you feel, what scares you, or what makes you happy. Use writing as a safe space to be honest with yourself. You could start by jotting down your day, reflecting on what you've learned, or letting your thoughts flow without a filter. Do it without pressure or expectations, and you'll notice how it helps you understand yourself better and release internal tension. My friend, rediscovering writing is like opening a window in a dark room and letting the light pour in. No matter how chaotic your life may be, there's always time to sit with a pen and paper and let the words guide you toward clarity. Your story deserves to be told, even if you're the only one who reads it. So start today. Take that time for yourself and rediscover the power of putting your thoughts into words. In the end, it's an act of self-love and a path to truly understanding who you are. Lesson 12. Find your strength when no one holds you up. They say some people are born with the wind at their back. Epictetus wasn't one of them. He was born in a house where he didn't even have his own name, just a number. He owned nothing, not even the right to decide what to do with his days. Orders ruled his life, and punishment was the language he lived in. And yet, in the middle of all that, something unexpected happened. He didn't break. Every time the world knocked him down, he found a reason within himself to get back up. Every time someone tried to make him a slave, he chose to be free in his mind. "No one is free unless he is master of himself," he wrote. It wasn't just a pretty phrase. It was a declaration of war against everything that tried to destroy him. And if he, with no support, no privileges, and no help, managed to stay standing, why wouldn't you be able to do the same? Maybe you're still waiting for someone to come and save you. But the truth is, no one can rescue you better than you can. Not because you're invincible, but because there is far more strength in you than you think. The problem is, you forget it every time you tie your strength to someone else's presence. Think about this. There are people who, after a breakup, a loss, or a betrayal, collapse because they feel they have no one to turn to. And then there are others who, despite feeling the same pain, keep going. Not because it hurts less, but because they understand that to stop would be to betray themselves. They start from scratch, rebuild their goals, heal step by step. And with every step, they discover that real strength isn't in who walks with you. It's in not giving up. Seneca once wrote, "The soul becomes stronger through adversity." And he was right. That discomfort we fear so much, the silence, the absence, the emptiness, is actually an invisible gym. Every time you choose to rise without help, your foundation gets stronger. Every time you keep moving without a push, your will becomes steel. That kind of strength doesn't make noise, but once it's there, nothing can break it. Maybe today you feel like you're alone, but that's your opportunity. Redefine solitude, not as abandonment, but as the perfect setting to find out what you're really made of. Start small. Pour your energy into actions that depend only on you, without waiting for praise or permission. And when you start doubting your strength, remember every time you got through something alone. Those silent victories are proof that you can handle this too. When there's no one left to hold you up, you become your own pillar. And once you realize you can stand on your own, you understand that abandonment, loss, or failure have no real power over you. In fact, every obstacle becomes a chance to prove to yourself that you don't need to shout to be strong, or rely on others to earn respect. All you need is that quiet decision to keep going, even when you're walking the path alone. Because the one who walks alone goes further and walks stronger. Lesson 13. Few friends, big impact. Picture this. You're at a social gathering. There's laughter, music, and people everywhere. But have you ever felt a strange loneliness in the middle of all that noise? Surrounded by familiar faces, yet without any real connection, your mind starts to spiral. Frustration, anxiety, maybe even sadness creep in. Believe me, my friend, it's a scenario many of us know all too well. Now imagine something different. Picture yourself with a friend, one of those rare few who truly understands who you are. There's no need for empty words or trying to impress anyone. Just calm, meaningful conversations and a connection that brings you peace. And there it is, another key. Maybe what you need isn't more friends, but the kind that truly make an impact. Let's be clear. Quality always beats quantity. Do you think having a large social circle makes you happier or more secure? Hate to break it to you, but it doesn't. In fact, the Stoics taught us that true strength lies in surrounding yourself with people who add value to your life, not in collecting acquaintances to fill a void. Seneca said it best, "Choose carefully those with whom you wish to spend your time." And no, I'm not telling you to isolate yourself, just to be selective. Think about it. Remember those deep conversations you've had with someone you fully trust? Maybe that evening when you sat under the stars or shared a quiet coffee, and your worries felt lighter because you were truly heard. Isn't that infinitely more valuable than any loud party full of shallow interactions? The Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Avoid those who distract your mind with confusion and discord." His advice isn't to reject all company, but to discern which ones serve you well. When you surround yourself with people who uplift you, your mind finds calm and clarity. Those few genuine relationships act as pillars that support your well-being, while superficial connections only create noise and chaos. Now, let's get real. How many of the people you spend time with truly affect your thoughts, your mood, and your energy? Don't shy away from answering. The truth might sting, but it will set you free. Like the roots of a tree, some people nourish you and help you grow, while others entangle and hold you back. So choose wisely who you allow into your life, because your connections can determine whether you flourish or wither. How can you put this into practice? First, grab a pen and paper. Make a list of the people who support you and help you grow, and spend more time with them. Second, set boundaries with those who bring only drama into your life. Listen, you don't need to explain yourself or feel guilty for protecting your peace. Do they ever apologize for their negativity? Lastly, invest time in nurturing the relationships that truly matter. Plan meaningful meetups, create memories that nourish your soul, and leave a lasting impact. My friend, less is more. When you learn to value quality over quantity, you'll experience a profound transformation. Your thoughts become clearer, your energy feels balanced, and your mind finds the calm it's been craving. So don't worry about how many friends are on your list. At the end of the day, those few genuine connections are the ones that will truly make a difference. And as the Stoics wisely knew, in the serenity of sincere relationships lies an unshakable strength. Lesson 14. Do you know your worst enemy? Imagine you're running a marathon. You're not racing against thousands of people, just one figure who's always one step ahead of you. You try to speed up, and it speeds up too. You change strategy, and it adapts. At first you think it's just coincidence until suddenly it hits you. That figure is you. That shadow blocking your path is your fear, your hesitation, that inner voice that keeps repeating, "Don't even try, you're going to fail." In a moment like that, Seneca would help you see that the weight isn't in the actual obstacle, but in how your mind anticipates it, with fear. And that's exactly what happens when you sabotage yourself. It's not that the wall is too high, it's that your mind already decided you can't climb it. We rarely notice, but most of the time it's not others holding us back. It's ourselves. We've mastered the art of dressing up excuses as logic. Not today, I'll do it when I have more time. It's not the right moment, there'll be another chance. I just can't afford to fail right now. And behind each of those phrases, there's not caution, there's fear. Picture this. You're sitting in front of your computer, blank page open. You've been dreaming of writing that book for weeks, or at least a first chapter. You make yourself a coffee, sit down, ready, and then the battle begins. Your mind starts firing. What if what I write isn't good enough? What if no one wants to read it? Better do some more research before I start. Minutes go by, you check social media, answer a non-urgent email. Suddenly remember you need to fold laundry. And when you look at the clock, there's no time left. You close your laptop with the fake comfort of having been busy. But deep down, you know it, you ran away. That's your invisible enemy. Not lack of talent, not lack of opportunity. It's that inner voice that beats you to every attempt and convinces you you're not ready. And the worst part is, we hear it so often, we end up believing it. This is where Stoicism comes in as the antidote. Epictetus taught that no one can be free without learning to govern themselves. That means facing that inner voice head on. Because living alone, getting ahead, and always winning in life isn't about conquering the world. It's about no longer losing to your own fear. How do you do that? There's one exercise that can open your eyes. The next time you hear yourself say, "I can't," swap it in your mind for, "I don't want to put in the effort." It may sound harsh, but in that moment you'll stop lying to yourself. You'll be forced to admit that the real block isn't out there. It's inside. And even if it stings, that kind of clarity sets you free. Another step that can shift how you see yourself is writing things down. Spend a week noting every excuse you use. "I'm tired. Now's not a good time. Maybe later." Write them all. At the end of the week, read them together. You'll realize they're almost always the same ones, just wearing different masks. And once you recognize them, they lose their power. It's also essential to let yourself do something just for you, even if it seems absurd to others. Think, what do you love? Singing loudly in the car, learning to paint, baking a cake, dancing in your room. Do it without looking for approval. Don't post it, don't talk about it, just do it. Make it yours. Because when you do something purely for yourself, you strike a direct blow to the part of you that always wants to fit in. Start training your freedom with small wins. Don't wait for a heroic moment. Begin with the daily discomforts. Not snoozing the alarm, saying no to a plan you don't want, daring to speak up in a meeting where you usually stay silent. Every move, no matter how small, chips away at that invisible enemy. No, don't wait for the perfect moment. That's your sabotaging self's favorite trick, promising you a tomorrow that never comes. The moment is now, even if it's just a tiny step. And when you take it, even if it's small, you feel something huge. The freedom of choosing for yourself without invisible chains, without inner apologies. Remember what Marcus Aurelius wrote: your mind will take the shape of your thoughts. If you fill your head with doubt, your actions will reflect that doubt. If you feed your excuses, your life will become a chain of them. And even if you blame your boss, your family, or chance, deep down, it was you who built the walls. Because your worst enemy was never out there. It was always inside. And if you can beat it, even once, you'll be that much closer to living alone, moving forward, and always winning in life. Now tell me, my friend, what's the excuse that has held you back the most in your life? Write it without fear. And if you're ready to overcome your worst enemy, write, today, I free myself from myself. Lesson 15. Learn to be at peace with yourself. Marcus Aurelius had a habit that very few today dare to practice. He sought moments of silence even in the middle of the empire's chaos. He didn't need to escape to the mountains to find himself. He did it right there, in the heart of the palace, surrounded by advisors, noise, and responsibilities. In his meditations, he left behind a phrase that still serves as a powerful guide. Man takes refuge in the countryside, by the sea, or in the mountains. But the greatest refuge is within his own soul. And he was right. If you don't know how to be well with yourself, no company will ever fill your emptiness. Most of us, my friend, run from that encounter. We fear silence because in silence there are no distractions, no masks, no excuses. It's just us, and whatever we've been avoiding for far too long. That's why we fill every moment with noise. Social media, plans, conversations, screens. But if you're always running from yourself, how will you ever truly get to know who you are? I don't know if you've noticed, but being alone is like walking into a house that's been closed up for years. At first there's dust, it's dark, and the echo unsettles you. You want to run away. But if you stay, if you open the windows and let the light in, you start to recognize every corner. And that place that once scared you starts to feel like home. The same thing happens with you. Once you learn to be at peace in your own company, you stop needing crutches to hold yourself up. The Stoics saw solitude not as punishment, but as training. Epictetus said true freedom comes when your peace of mind doesn't depend on others. And to get there, you have to learn to live with yourself without constantly chasing distractions. Only then can you develop the self-control that allows you to act with clarity, without being dragged around by noise. Because respect isn't earned by shouting or forcing authority. It's communicated from the calm of someone who knows themselves and trusts their own judgment. Think about yourself for a moment. How often do you feel like you always need to have something planned? That Sunday when, if no one's around, you keep checking your phone or looking for any excuse to go out. Not because you feel like it, but because the silence makes you uneasy. I get it, it happens to most of us. But try something different. Go for a walk without headphones, sit and have a coffee on your own. Let silence be your company for a while. At first it feels strange, almost uncomfortable. Then comes the surprise, and after that, a feeling of freedom you hadn't noticed before. You realize it wasn't solitude that scared you. It was facing that part of yourself you'd been avoiding for too long. And that's exactly when real growth begins. You can start today with something simple. Spend a few minutes each day without any stimulation. Do important things alone, from making decisions to enjoying a walk. And ask yourself honestly, what part of me am I avoiding? Seneca once wrote, "He who is enough for himself will never be poor." And he was right. Because once you learn to be okay with yourself, you no longer need anyone to complete you or fill your gaps. From that place of inner peace, relationships stop being a need and become a free choice. And it's exactly in that moment, when you understand you can walk alone, that everything shifts. Your steps become more grounded, your decisions more genuine, and your path clearer. Because someone who feels whole on the inside doesn't walk hoping to be accompanied. They go further, because they're no longer afraid to walk alone. Lesson 16. Truly know yourself. Do you think you really know yourself? I'm not talking about knowing your name, where you live, or your hobbies. Things even your neighbor might know. No, I mean something deeper. I'm talking about knowing who you are inside, your deepest fears, your most authentic dreams, and what drives you or holds you back when no one's watching. It's a challenge, isn't it? Because let's be honest, we often live on the surface, convincing ourselves that those deeper things don't matter. But I assure you they do. Think about it. Most of us go through life as strangers to ourselves, guided by what others expect instead of what we truly want. It's like driving a car without knowing the destination. You can circle around for years without realizing you've never arrived where you really wanted to be. If you don't truly know yourself, how can you decide which road to take? Let me tell you the story of my friend Marta. Marta seemed to have it all: a good job, friends to hang out with on weekends, and a routine that kept her busy. But something in her life always felt out of place. Every night when the house went quiet, she felt an emptiness she couldn't fill. Marta had never taken the time to ask herself what she truly wanted. Her life seemed perfect on the outside: a good job, her own home, an expensive car. Yet she felt like she was acting in a play, performing a role written by others. She'd never explored who she was when the stage lights dimmed. One night, during one of those restless evenings, Marta decided to do something different. Instead of distracting herself with her phone or TV, she sat in silence and started writing in a notebook. She asked herself what made her happy, what hurt her, and what things in her life no longer served her. At first it was uncomfortable, almost frightening. The words wouldn't come. Marta realized she didn't know who she was or what she wanted from life. But slowly the answers began to emerge. She discovered she'd been working in an industry she hated for years, simply because it was expected of her. She realized she surrounded herself with people who didn't share her values out of fear of being alone. Getting to know herself changed everything. Marta quit her job, spent time pursuing her true passion, and felt more alive than ever. Her life transformed from an empty script to a story worth living. The Stoics also championed the importance of self-knowledge. Epictetus taught, "Know yourself, and you will know how to avoid the winds of fate." This means that when you understand yourself and what matters to you, external influences lose their power to throw you off course. It's like having an internal compass. Even in the middle of a storm, you know where to go. When you truly know yourself, decisions become easier and others' opinions lose their weight. You can move forward without needing anyone to tell you what to do or why. So how can you start truly knowing yourself? Take a page from Marta's story. Spend time alone without distractions and ask yourself tough questions. What genuinely makes me happy? What scares me? What things do I do for myself? And what do I do for others? Write down your answers. Allow yourself to feel uncomfortable at first. Self-discovery isn't always easy, but it's powerful. Pay attention to your emotions. Don't ignore them, because they're clues to what truly matters to you. My friend, knowing yourself is the first step toward an authentic and fulfilling life. It doesn't matter how many years you've spent living on the surface. There's always time to dive deep and discover who you truly are. Because in the end, when you truly know yourself, You live a life that's yours and yours alone, without needing to follow scripts written by others. And now, stay with me just a moment longer. The final point is simple, but incredibly powerful. 17th lesson. Take the wheel back. You've probably felt it before. You're holding the wheel tight, but it's like someone else is steering. You turn left, then right, but the car doesn't respond the way it should. And deep down you know, you're not the one driving. That would have sounded familiar to Marcus Aurelius. He repeated it over and over in his meditations. If you don't master your mind, someone else will. And that's the trap many people fall into today. They believe they're in control, but they're really just passengers, going wherever others expect them to go. So here's the question for you, my friend. Are you really making your own decisions, or just repeating what others expect? Some people study a degree they never wanted, just because it was safe or their family applauded it. Some stay in jobs they hate because that's just how it is, and quitting would disappoint people. Even in personal life, many hold on to relationships that drain them, just out of fear of what others would say if they left. The trap is so subtle it looks like choice, but it isn't. Marcus Aurelius warned that a man's life becomes whatever his thoughts make it. And if your thoughts are wired to please others, your actions will follow the same path. That's why Epictetus insisted, nothing external has power over you unless you give it that power. And that's where most people stumble. They hand over the wheel to everyone except themselves, but you don't have to. If you're still unsure, think of Frida Kahlo. Her life was marked by a devastating accident that left her in constant pain and limited her mobility forever. Anyone else in her position might have felt the wheel was broken. That life would now be decided for them. But Frida did the exact opposite. She gripped that wheel tighter than ever. She turned her pain into art, her solitude into inspiration, her wounded body into a canvas that spoke louder than words. She didn't let doctors, society, or circumstances steer her life. She took back control. And with every brushstroke, she proved that you can always reclaim your path. So how do you take the wheel back? Try this. Dedicate a day radically to you. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, do only what you truly want. Don't justify it. Don't ask for approval. Don't explain it. Choose your clothes, your food, your time, your conversations. Everything from within. You might feel uncomfortable at first, like you're waiting for permission. And that's the moment you'll realize how often you adapt without even noticing. Another way to open your eyes is what I call a decision X-ray. Grab a piece of paper and write down your last 3 major decisions. Maybe moving, changing jobs, ending a relationship, anything. And next to each one, ask yourself honestly, was this my decision or was it shaped by other people's expectations? Seeing it on paper might hurt, but it will also set you free. And if you're stuck in a difficult choice, here's a curious trick. Flip a coin. Not to follow what it lands on, but to feel your reaction right before you see the result. In that instant, your body already knows what it wants. That 1 second of truth is worth more than hours of overthinking. If you're still unsure, ask yourself a long-term question. If I stay on this path for the next 10 years, where does it take me? And who chose that destination? Sometimes realizing you're heading toward a life that isn't yours hurts more than losing it all. But it can also set you free, because you remember there's always another route. Stoicism reminds us that it's okay to make mistakes, as long as they're your mistakes. A failure from your own choice hurts less than silent obedience, because the failure that comes from your own voice brings growth. The failure that comes from someone else's path only leaves resentment. To live alone, move forward, and always win in life doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means choosing with courage. It means being able to look back one day and say, maybe I didn't always get it right, but that was my choice. And believe me, that kind of peace is worth more than any applause. Now tell me, what important decision do you feel you haven't made yet, just because you're afraid of disappointing someone? Share it in the comments. And if you're ready to take the wheel back, write, "Today I'm driving." Lesson number 18. You are enough. Let me say this loud and clear, so there's no room for doubt. You are enough. You don't need anyone's approval or impossible standards to prove your worth. Society has convinced you that you're not, that you're missing something, more success, more beauty, more recognition. But my friend, let's be honest, all of that is an illusion. What truly matters is learning to see yourself as valuable, just as you are, without needing someone to praise or applaud you at every step. How many times have you felt like you're not good enough? Maybe after scrolling through social media, comparing yourself to someone who seems to have it all. But here's the truth. You already have everything you need within you. Listen carefully. There's nothing more exhausting than fighting against a version of yourself that you think isn't good enough. Learn to embrace your worth right here and now, because peace comes when you realize you don't have to change to be deserving of respect and love. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught us to stop relying on others' opinions to feel valuable. If you keep searching for validation outside yourself, you'll never truly be free. But when you recognize your own worth, you feel a peace that no one and nothing can take away. If you doubt your value, you'll always feel like something is missing. But when you start to rewrite that internal narrative, when you tell yourself that you are already enough, everything changes. It's like clearing a dark, cloudy sky to let the sunlight in. Your perspective brightens, and everything becomes clearer. Now think about this. Do you believe that those who seem to have it all, celebrities you see on TV or influencers with millions of followers, don't deal with the same insecurities? The truth is, behind those perfect images are doubts and moments of feeling inadequate. No matter how perfect a life may appear from the outside, everyone faces the same internal battle. Trust me, even that famous person you admire for their looks or wealth is on their own journey toward self-acceptance. That journey, my friend, becomes shorter when you start looking at yourself with more compassion. When you make a mistake, don't punish yourself. Understand that you're human and worthy just as you are. Celebrate your small victories and acknowledge the qualities that make you unique. Shift your perspective. Imagine you're a lighthouse in a storm, shining brightly not because the storm allows it, but because that's your nature. There's no specific moment in life when someone else will grant you the title of enough. It's something you have to give yourself. So stop searching for approval in places where you'll never find it, and repeat after me. I am enough, even on my darkest days. Lesson 19. Alone doesn't mean empty, it means free. A table for one, your favorite dish in front of you, a hot coffee by your side, and just the sound of your own breathing. No one else. Seems simple, right? But for many it's unbearable. Not because they lack company, but because they don't know what to do when silence shows up. And right there lies the key to what the Stoics taught us. Learning to find within yourself the strength that so many chase outside. Some people can solve 1,000 problems in a day, be there for everyone, smile even when they don't feel like it. But the moment they're alone, they feel a deep emptiness. It's like their life always depends on other people's noise. And that, my friend, is dangerous because if you don't know how to be with yourself, you'll always need someone to distract you from you. I once heard the story of a painter named Antonio, a regular man, not famous. He lived in a small town and, after losing his wife, spent months wrapped in grief. His neighbors looked at him with pity, seeing him alone at the cafe, walking by himself, sitting on a bench with a notebook. But what no one knew was that in those moments he was rebuilding. He started painting again, writing little notes to himself, enjoying a meal without checking the time. He discovered that solitude wasn't killing him, it was training him. And over time, people began to see him differently. Not as a lonely man, but as someone at peace. That ties perfectly to what Epictetus once said. No man who values himself feels alone. And he was right. Because when you build a strong relationship with yourself, solitude stops feeling like punishment. It becomes a safe space, a quiet refuge where you can breathe and be yourself without masks. Picture this. It's Friday afternoon. You get off work and have no plans. The first thought that comes up is, I'll text someone, see if there's anything going on. You feel this urge to fill the gap because being alone with yourself feels uncomfortable. But what if you didn't fill it? What if instead of running toward noise, you chose calm? You walk into your favorite cafe, sit down alone, order your usual. At first, your mind resists. What if people stare? What if they think I have no friends? But if you push through, something shifts. You realize you're just with yourself. There's no one to entertain, no one to impress, no need to fit in. Just you and whatever you feel like doing in that moment. That's what hurts. Not the solitude, but not knowing how to be with yourself. As psychologist Sylvia Kongost puts it, solitude doesn't hurt. What hurts is not being able to stand your own company. And believe me, once you start crossing that threshold, everything changes. You stop needing constant distractions. You begin to enjoy silence as a form of strength. Try this. Make a list of things you enjoy doing on your own. Wandering aimlessly, cooking with your favorite music on, browsing a bookstore, watching an old movie, taking photos of places that inspire you, having a coffee without touching your phone. Pick one of those things and give it to yourself this week. Treat it like a date, with you. No excuses. And while you're doing it, pay attention to how you feel. At first, you might feel awkward, like something's missing. You might feel exposed, like everyone's watching. Don't judge it, just notice. Because every time you choose to stay, even when it's uncomfortable, you're training your freedom. You're learning that you are enough. And when solitude stops scaring you, you also stop settling for relationships that only distract you. Because you're no longer trying to fill a hole. You're sharing from a place of wholeness. That's the difference. Someone who knows how to be alone never settles for less than they deserve. So next time that empty space shows up, remember, you don't need anyone to feel complete. You just need to reconnect with yourself. Because once you learn to enjoy your own company, you've already taken the most important step to live alone, get ahead, and always win in life. Now I want to ask you, what's the one activity you enjoy most when you're completely by yourself? Write it in the comments. And if you want to make it clear that you're learning to turn solitude into your superpower, write, I am enough. Lesson 20. Better alone than surrounded by noise. You've definitely felt it. Some people come into your life and it's like they boost your energy bar. Everything flows with them. More peace, more motivation, more clarity. You walk away from seeing them and feel like you can breathe better. But then there are the others, the ones who seem harmless, almost invisible. But every encounter feels like losing lives in a video game. They chip away at your self-esteem, your patience, your motivation. And the worst part? You don't even question it. You get used to the drain like it's just part of the level. The Stoics wouldn't have tolerated that. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul takes on the color of the thoughts it cultivates. And tell me, what kind of color can your soul take on if your environment is constant noise? This isn't about putting up with everyone, it's about filtering. Because not every connection deserves a place in your life. Picture this, you make plans with someone who's always in your calendar, even though deep down you already know you don't want to go. But you say yes anyway because otherwise they'll get upset. The moment you arrive, the show begins. Finally, took you long enough. Thought you were going to ditch me again like last time. You smile out of politeness, even though you know you never ditched them. You order a coffee, and before you can take your first sip, the same old story starts. Complaints about work, fights with their partner, negativity about everything. Nothing new, but you have to listen like it's the first time. You try to speak, maybe share something about your week, but they cut you off immediately. Oh, come on, don't compare. Your stuff is nothing like mine. And there you are again, quiet, faking interest, like a wall absorbing soft, endless punches. Then comes the jab. You're always so busy, I don't know how you make time for anyone. Your stomach tightens, because what they really mean is, you don't pay enough attention to me. And when you try to wrap things up, they deliver the final hit. Well, at least you listened. No one else does. You walk out of there with your head heavy, your body drained, and one question echoing in your mind. Why do I keep showing up when I always leave feeling worse? That's not company, It's emotional cardio. And a true Stoic knew, you can't reach inner peace if your surroundings are chaos. Calm starts with a filter, from the outside in. That's where we need to remember Seneca. He wrote that we must distance ourselves from those who don't make us better, because what you consume from your environment shapes your soul too. And it's true. You can't seek peace if you live in noise. You can't chase clarity if you're surrounded by someone else's storm. So if you truly want to live for you, ask yourself honestly, who am I letting in? Try this simple exercise. Think of the 5 people you talk to the most each week. Write their names down, and next to each one, write the first thing that comes to mind. Do they give me peace, or do they drain me? Don't justify, don't sugarcoat it. If the answer makes you uncomfortable, you've just found a clue. Because you can't win in life if you're surrounded by people who keep pulling you backward. Another thing you can do is create space before reacting. Don't reply right away to the person who always throws you off balance. Put your phone down, take a breath, wait a few hours. You'll be surprised how often that reply you were about to send no longer feels necessary. Because being constantly available out of guilt, that's another way of leaking energy. And remember this, not everyone who shows up needs to stay. You decide who gets your time, your conversation, your energy. And if someone steals your calm every time they appear, maybe it's time they stop showing up so often. Here's the simplest test. If you feel more at peace without someone than with them, there's your answer. Yes, this includes lifelong friends, family members who don't respect you, or WhatsApp groups that no longer align with who you are. This isn't about being cruel. It's about being coherent. Because in the end, what you allow outside affects what happens inside. And if you want to build a solid life, you need people around you who bring you back to yourself, not people who make you lose track of who you are. That, my friend, is also one of the secrets to living alone, moving forward, and always winning in life. Choosing relationships that bring peace, not noise. Lesson 21. Trust yourself more than any applause. Some fires are lit by applause and others burn silently, even when no one sees them. Confidence belongs to that second kind. It doesn't need a stage or praise or spectators. It lives inside you like an inner torch, one that doesn't shine brighter just because others are watching, but because you choose to keep it burning, even when the wind blows against you. Marcus Aurelius said it simply, "Look within. There lies the fountain of good, and it will keep flowing as long as you keep digging." That source, that unshakable strength, is in you, even if sometimes you forget. Imagine you're chasing a dream that few people understand. Maybe your family criticizes it, your friends don't take it seriously, and even you sometimes doubt it in silence. And yet, you keep going. Not because you have guarantees, but because there's a quiet voice inside you saying, "Trust." That is true confidence, the kind that doesn't need a crowd, the kind that holds steady even when no one is pushing you forward. Maybe your choices don't make sense to others right now. Maybe the people around you question your abilities or fail to see what you see in yourself. But if you trust your judgment, if you keep showing up and stay on course even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else, one day, those same people who doubted you will ask how you did it. And you'll know the truth. You didn't do it to convince them. You did it because you believed in yourself when no one else did. Epictetus said, "He who seeks happiness outside himself is doomed to disappointment." And he couldn't have been more right. If your worth depends on recognition, you'll spend your life chasing validation. Every applause will become a need, every silence a threat. But when your confidence comes from your ability to choose, adapt, and persist, nothing external can break you. That's the difference between being a prisoner of other people's opinions and walking calmly, even when the path is empty. When doubt shows up, and it will, remember all those moments you pushed through without help. Let those memories fuel you. Speak to yourself out loud if you need to. Say, "I can handle this," and learn to move in silence. You don't have to announce every step. Sometimes the strongest kind of confidence is just moving forward without a word and letting your results do the talking. And the most powerful thing of all is this: Once you learn to trust yourself, walking alone stops being scary. You stop looking sideways for approval and begin to move forward with steady steps, even if no one is walking beside you. That's the kind of confidence that takes you further, the kind that doesn't need witnesses to stay strong, the kind that doesn't flicker in solitude, the kind that keeps going when everything else stands still. Because the one who dares to believe in their path, even if they walk it in silence, ends up reaching places those who depend on applause will never touch. Lesson 22. Connect with your deepest passions. Think about it. When was the last time you did something that truly filled your soul? I'm not talking about that TV show that makes you laugh or the chocolate bar you grab mid-morning when hunger strikes. I mean that one activity that sparks something inside you. We all have something we're passionate about, something that energizes us and gives our life meaning. But in the chaos of modern life, it's easy to lose that connection. We get swept up in family demands and endless to-do lists. But what about us? Are we living for ourselves or just for others? Living without following your passions is like walking through an endless tunnel with no light at the end. Everything feels mechanical and lifeless. Each day blends into the next and the routine slowly eats away at you. You wake up drained, dragging yourself through the motions, fulfilling obligations but not feeling truly alive. It's like being a robot, programmed to survive, not to enjoy. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine waking up excited, knowing you'll dedicate even a little time to something that makes you feel alive. It's a subtle but powerful shift. Suddenly the weight on your chest lightens and your days begin to take on color and purpose. You feel more like yourself, more connected to your essence. That positive energy radiates into everything you do. In those moments, you're living to fulfill your purpose, not someone else's. The Stoics deeply understood the importance of giving life a meaningful purpose. Marcus Aurelius said, "Love what you do and do it with purpose." This advice doesn't just apply to work, it applies to life itself. When you make time for what you're passionate about, you don't just find satisfaction. You create a life that's more meaningful and full of energy. The key is simple. Stop ignoring what ignites you and start prioritizing it. That, my friend, is how you live for yourself. Picture your life as a backpack you carry every day. If you fill it with things that weigh you down, tasks and responsibilities you don't enjoy, the journey becomes exhausting. But if you leave room for what you love, for those small things that make you smile, the backpack feels lighter and the path becomes easier. I'm not saying you should abandon your responsibilities. Just take a moment to ask yourself, what would I do if there were no obligations? Think about that job you hate or that task you repeat endlessly because you believe you have no choice. You need the money, the bills don't pay themselves, and your family depends on you. I'm not suggesting you quit overnight and leave your family in a bind, but what if you slowly started dedicating a little time to what truly fulfills you? Maybe just a few minutes a day at first. Something to remind you that life is more than just surviving. Something that reconnects you with who you are and what truly matters. Ever heard of Albert Einstein? Of course you have. This genius didn't just talk about complex equations. He also spoke about the importance of curiosity and enthusiasm. He said that true intelligence isn't about knowing everything. It's about keeping the desire to discover and enjoy alive. So, take it from one of the smartest people to ever walk the earth. Every moment you invest in yourself is a step toward living independently, without relying on anyone or anything to define your happiness. Lesson 23. Stay true to your habits, even in silence. Have you noticed how sometimes we act like children who only do their homework when someone's watching? The moment no one's around, we slow down, we put things off, or we leave them for later. And the Stoics already saw this as a sign of weakness. If your commitment depends on other people's eyes, then it's not virtue, it's performance. Think of someone who only trains when the coach is watching. While they're being observed, they give it their all, perfect reps, focused expression, best attitude. But the moment the coach looks away, they ease up, stop pushing, and fall back into comfort. Maybe that'll get them a few small wins, sure, but they'll never go far. Because sooner or later the noise fades. There are no more messages cheering you on, no one asking how it's going, no one congratulating you for sticking to the path. It's just you, your goal, and the temptation to give up because it feels like no one cares. But right there, in that exact moment of silence, is where your true nature shows. Because anyone can stay consistent with applause. Only those who walk alone keep moving when there are no witnesses. Marcus Aurelius never wrote his meditations with the idea of publishing them. They were personal thoughts, private reflections he probably never imagined would one day change the world. And yet, nearly 2,000 years later, they continue to guide millions. That's the power of what you do without an audience. Even in the shadows, it can light the way for others. Epictetus used to say that self-mastery is the highest form of freedom. And that kind of freedom isn't born on a stage or built in front of a crowd. It comes from the small decisions you make each day when no one's watching. From that moment you got out of bed even when your body begged for rest. From that night when you kept your word, even though no one would know. From every quiet choice that brings you closer to who you want to become. Maybe you also find it hard to stay strong when no one's looking, and that's exactly where the real training begins. You don't need to change your whole life. Just start with what matters most. Build small routines that don't rely on motivation, only on commitment. And when that moment comes when you feel like giving up because no one will notice, try this little mental trick. Imagine Marcus Aurelius watching you from his desk, silently judging whether you're being true to your purpose or just performing when there's an audience. Believe me, that image might push you more than any motivational speech ever could. Celebrate the wins no one sees, the ones that seem insignificant, but in truth shape your character. And above all, do everything with excellence, even if there's no thank you waiting at the end. Because if your effort stays the same with or without an audience, you've crossed the threshold of ordinary habits and stepped into the realm of true discipline. Remember what the philosopher Maria Zambrano wrote: "The wise man is the same in darkness as in full light." And she was right. Because discipline, my friend, is like the beat of a distant drum. At first, no one hears it, there's no applause or recognition. But you keep marching to that rhythm over and over, never skipping a beat. And without realizing it, that steady pulse becomes the foundation of your strength. If your habits stay strong even when no one's watching, the world can shake around you, and you'll still keep walking, steady and focused, without stopping every time the road grows quiet. Because the one who walks alone, without waiting for applause, is the one who ends up leaving footprints that last forever. Lesson 24. You don't need anyone to shine. Let me be honest with you. For a long time, I lived chasing the approval of others. It felt like every decision I made needed an external seal of validation to have any worth. I remember surrounding myself with people, even when I didn't enjoy their company, simply because I couldn't bear being alone. Whenever I achieved something, instead of celebrating what it meant to me, I'd look around, waiting for a smile, a clap, or a well done to confirm I was worthy. It was exhausting. I felt like an actor on a stage playing a role for an audience that often wasn't even paying attention. But one day it hit me. My worth couldn't depend on others' attention. Nobody else could make me shine. I had to learn how to do that for myself. I had to learn how to live without needing anyone by my side. So, let's be clear one more time. Living to seek approval from others is like sailing a boat without a rudder. A boat that gets tossed around by every opinion and every external expectation. It's a game you can never win, like a street trick where the odds are always stacked against you. But listen closely. When you realize that your worth isn't tied to others' approval, everything changes. You start to walk with confidence, making decisions based on what you want, not on what others expect. Marcus Aurelius said, "Stop debating what a good man should be and just be one." This means you don't need anyone's approval to be yourself. Your light is already within you, and only you decide how brightly it shines. Epictetus also taught us that true greatness comes from how we cultivate our character, not from external acceptance. It's not about having the best audience, it's about being the best version of yourself, even when no one is watching. And it's not just ancient wisdom, modern science agrees. Psychologist Nathaniel Branden showed that self-acceptance is essential for psychological well-being. He explained that solid self-esteem is built from within. His research revealed that people who rely on external validation suffer higher levels of anxiety and stress. Think of it like this. If you don't turn on your own inner light, you'll always be waiting for others to illuminate your path. But when you learn to value yourself without needing anyone's approval, your confidence becomes a solid anchor, capable of weathering any storm. So, how can you start shining without depending on anyone? First, recognize that your worth doesn't come from other people's opinions. Make a list of your achievements and qualities, and value yourself for who you are, not for how others see you. Then remind yourself of what we all already know. Your worth is immeasurable, even if it takes time to truly believe it. My friend, your light doesn't need permission to shine. It's not something others can give you or take away. You are enough, and you always have been. Stop looking for reflections in others and start recognizing your own strength. Because when you learn to shine from within, no shadow can dim your light. Go ahead, write it in the comments for the world to see. No one can dim my light. Lesson number 25. Free yourself from the prison of resentment. Tell me something. Have you ever realized that resentment works like a strange kind of prison? You're the one holding the key, but you still choose to stay locked inside. And the most absurd part is, the person who hurt you doesn't even know you're there, trapped with them behind bars. I won't lie to you, forgiving isn't easy. It's not about justifying what happened, or erasing what they did, or pretending it didn't hurt. It's about no longer carrying a weight that no longer changes anything. Because as long as you keep that resentment alive, it's like you're giving the other person power to keep influencing your life, even if they're no longer around. Picture this scene. You're at work in a meeting and you make a small mistake. You read a number wrong, mispronounce a word, or spill a glass of water. Nothing serious. But someone seizes the moment and jokes. Classic you, always distracted. Everyone laughs, the topic moves on. But you stay stuck there. Hours pass, the day ends, you get home, and you're still hearing that comment. You toss and turn in bed, replaying what you could have said, how you must have looked, what people thought of you. And the strange part? That person probably doesn't even remember saying it, but you're still reliving it like it just happened. Epictetus would be blunt. Those who hurt you don't control your soul, unless you hand it to them. And every time you let that wound stay open, that's exactly what you're doing. You give away your nights, your peace, your energy. Not long ago, I read a quote from psychologist Monica Gutierrez that sums it up perfectly. Forgiveness is a private act that frees the one who gives it, not necessarily the one who receives it. The other person may never know. They may not even care. But you'll feel it, because forgiveness isn't about fixing the past, it's about freeing your present. So how do you start? Don't wait for some epic moment. Don't wait for that person to apologize. Start with you. Find half an hour of solitude. Close the door, put on soft music, light a candle if you want. Grab paper and pen, and start writing. Say what happened, how it made you feel, what hurt. Let out everything you never said. But don't stop there. Add what it's cost you, the sleepless nights, the missed opportunities, the peace that left with it. And end with the sentence that changes everything. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. When you're done, tear that letter slowly, piece by piece. Do it mindfully. Because as your hands go through the motion, your mind starts to understand. You're breaking the chain that's been tying you to the past. Remember, forgiving is not weakness, it's power. It's not saying what happened doesn't matter, it's saying it no longer controls me. It's taking back the key to that invisible prison and walking out, finally free. Seneca warned us centuries ago, we waste life worrying about what's no longer in our hands. Resentment is exactly that. Time and energy invested in something you can't change. And every minute you feed it is a minute stolen from what you could be building today. Do it for real, not as a symbolic gesture, but as a decision made by someone tired of living in pause. Because if you don't forgive, It's like being stuck in a video frozen on the worst frame, and no one presses play, and your life was never meant to stay frozen. So remember, some people don't even deserve your hatred, only your graceful forgetting. My friend, if you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is already shifting. But hear me clearly, the best-kept secret still hasn't been revealed. I saved it for the end for a very specific reason. Without this final step, everything else loses strength. So open your eyes wide, because what comes next isn't just another point. It's the piece that might give everything its meaning. Let's go. Lesson 26. Sacrifice is the price of your greatness. Remember the story we opened this video with? The one about Michelangelo, about the man who spent years shut away, exhausted, with a broken body, painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, without even knowing if the world would ever value his work. He understood something that many still refuse to accept. Nothing truly worthwhile comes without sacrifice. And above all, he understood that the path to greatness is often walked alone. No one pushed him, no one carried him. It was just him, face to face with his purpose, who chose to keep going. And now, I want you to think about yourself. Maybe you're also waiting for your path to get easier, for the perfect opportunity to drop from the sky, or for someone to show up and give you a push. But the truth is, nothing important comes without paying a price. Epictetus knew this well. No great thing is created suddenly, and he didn't say that from theory but from experience. He was born a slave, suffered abuse, even lost the use of a leg. And in spite of it all, he chose to keep learning, to keep reflecting, to keep growing. His pain didn't define him. It forged him. The price of his wisdom was suffering, and he paid it without hesitation. My friend, if you truly want to transform your life, you need to ask yourself, what are you willing to leave behind? Make a list, an honest one, no sugarcoating, of everything you're ready to sacrifice this year for your goals. If the list is short, maybe your desire isn't as real as you think. Don't ask, is it worth it? Ask, is it worth my life? If the answer is yes, then keep going, even if it hurts. And when you're full of doubt, remember, every sacrifice you make today is a future version of you thanking you for not giving up. Sacrifice is not punishment, it's an investment. Every time you choose discipline over laziness, you're investing in your growth. Every time you choose silence over validation, you're investing in your character. And every time you choose to walk alone, even when it's heavy, you're investing in your freedom. Remember what Marcus Aurelius said, everything that is worth having comes from effort. And he was right. Letting go of distractions, of people who hold you back, of pleasures that weaken you. It's not weakness, it's strategy. You don't do it because you enjoy the sacrifice. You do it because you know your purpose is worth far more than any momentary comfort. Because in the end, the one who is willing to keep walking alone when the road gets steep is the one who ends up going furthest. If you think about it, everything we've talked about up to now has been about the same thing. Learning to stand on your own, to keep moving forward, to stop needing a push. But there's one more thing, something that often makes the difference between staying stuck and moving beyond. And that is what I want you to understand in this final lesson. Lesson 27. Live your truth, even if no one claps. My friend, imagine this. You walk outside wearing Crocs and socks. You feel great, comfortable, free, totally at ease with your choice. But soon, you start noticing the looks. A stifled laugh, a quiet comment you can't quite catch, but you know it's about you. And then you hesitate. You wonder if you should have worn something else, if maybe it was a bad idea. And worst of all, you begin to hide what just 5 minutes ago made you feel completely like yourself. That's what happens when you choose to live your truth in a world that wants you to be normal. The moment you show authenticity, judgment appears, whispers, criticism, side eyes, and right then, most people back down, but a few move forward. And here's the thing, the Stoics had already taught us. Living your truth doesn't depend on how many people clap. It depends on how true you are to yourself. Think about it. How many times have you turned the volume down on your essence just to avoid making others uncomfortable? How many times have you hidden what you love so you wouldn't stand out too much? Living your truth isn't easy, because not everyone is ready to see someone being fully themselves. But you know what? That's exactly how you know you're on the right path. The singer Zahara lived it firsthand. For years, she tried to fit in. She dressed the way people expected, sang what sold, acted how she should. And sure, everything looked fine on the outside. But inside, she was losing herself. Until one day she said enough. She started writing what she really felt, singing her truth without filters, showing up as she was. Did she get criticized? Of course. But for the first time, she felt a kind of peace she'd never known. Because when you live your truth, you stop needing permission to be. Let me give you another scene. You've been dreaming of starting something new, a business, a project, a change of direction. And when you finally talk about it, all you hear is, "That'll never work. With the way things are, forget it. Just stay where you are." And there you are, heart on fire, soul frozen. What weighs more, your inner desire or someone else's doubt? The Stoics had a clear answer. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What's good for you doesn't need everyone's approval." And if you really think about it, that's powerful. Because what truly matters in your life can't be measured in applause, likes, or nods. It's measured by how aligned you are with yourself. Picture Marcus Aurelius whispering to an actor backstage, "Do your performance, even if the seats are empty." That's the point. Act because it's your role, not because someone claps. So let's talk practical, because living your truth isn't just a pretty phrase, it's action. Make a list of the things you love but tend to hide. That music you listen to when you're alone. That dream you never talk about. That side of you that shines but you keep in the dark out of fear of judgment. This week, reveal just one. No permission, no explanation, just because. Here's something else. Stop justifying your decisions. If you chose something that's good for you, you don't need to dress it up in excuses. The people who truly care will understand. The rest? Let them watch from a distance. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to live your life. And yes, dare to make people uncomfortable. You read that right. Because often someone else's discomfort isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're growing. If your truth unsettles them, it might be because it reflects a part of themselves they haven't dared to live. Think about it. What's the point of chasing applause your whole life, if when the crowd finally claps, you're not even the one on stage? The real failure isn't being unrecognized. It's no longer recognizing yourself in the mirror. My friend, this is the ultimate secret to inner peace. Because when you stop living to please and start living for you, something shifts. You get free. You walk tall, even if no one claps. Even if the theater is half empty. Even if the critics shout, because you no longer need the world to confirm what you already know deep down. Your truth deserves to be lived. So never forget this. Your life isn't a popularity contest. It's your masterpiece. And the most important performance won't be measured in applause. It'll be measured in the quiet calm of knowing you were authentic. That's the moment you stop asking for permission and truly start to win. Live your truth even if no one claps. Even if no one... Lesson 28. Leave footprints that speak for you. My friend, your life is like a torch in the middle of a dark forest. It might not light the way for everyone, but it will be enough for someone, lost in the fog, to find a way forward. And even if you don't always realize it, the way you act carries incredible power. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. When he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like the one who wronged you," he didn't write it to be remembered by history. Those were quiet words, written just for himself. And yet, centuries later, they still guide people who are trying to live with integrity. That's proof that what you leave through your actions reaches far beyond any speech. Walking alone isn't just about getting far. It's about what you build along the way. And the strange thing is, Your greatest impact is often one you'll never see. It's in the people who watch you quietly and find in your example a reason to keep going. Epictetus said, "What matters is not what happens, but how we respond to it." And in those responses, in those small moments when no one's clapping or watching, is where your deepest mark is made. It's not your success that inspires. It's how you hold your ground when everything feels like it's falling apart. It's not your words that guide. It's how you choose to treat others when you could have just looked away. Live as if your life is the example someone else needs to see. Ask yourself each night, would the person I was today leave a mark I'd be proud of? And if the answer is no, then tomorrow is your chance to change that. Because it's not about perfection, it's about consistency. Every decision you make, every gesture you choose, every step you take in solitude builds a path that someone someday might walk too. My friend, the solitary path doesn't end with you. It ends with others. And once you understand that, walking alone stops being just a personal act. It becomes something much greater. Because the one who moves forward without needing applause doesn't just go further, they open a way for others to follow. And that, without a doubt, is the most powerful way to leave a mark, not by speaking louder, but by walking with such clarity, calm, and purpose, that your presence alone becomes a light for someone else. So here's your final challenge. Think about the mark you want to leave and write it in the comments. It can be a simple phrase like, "I want my life to be a quiet example." Because in the end, the one who walks alone not only goes further, they also light the way for everyone who comes after. Lesson 29. Fitting in dims your light. Living lights you up. My friend, tell me the truth. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to scream no? How many times have you stayed in a place you didn't want to be, just so you wouldn't seem odd? How many times have you laughed with a smile that wasn't even yours? That's not living. That's just fitting in. Fitting in may seem harmless, but it comes at a high cost. Little by little, you start to erase yourself. You hide what you think, reshape what you feel, put on a mask just to avoid bothering anyone. Until one day you're not even sure if what you're doing is really you, or if you've been pretending for so long that you've ended up believing it. This is where the Stoics give us a powerful lesson. Think of Epictetus, a man born into slavery with no physical freedom, no control over his own body. And yet, he found the one freedom no one could take away, his mind. He made it clear that as long as your happiness depends on others' approval, you will never be free. And he was right, because the moment your happiness depends on a like, a look, or a "that sounds good," your life stops being yours. Maybe you hadn't realized it before. But when you don't have a clear and solid identity, you end up needing to look outside yourself just to know how to act. It's like everyone else becomes your compass. You end up dressing how you're expected to dress, thinking how you're expected to think, loving how you're expected to love. And without noticing, you lose your direction. Because the journey is yours, but the map isn't. If you truly want to live alone, move forward, and always win in life, that's where you need to start. By breaking your addiction to approval. That's the foundation of Stoic freedom. Because only when you choose without fear of judgment do you begin to walk freely. Picture this. Your family is planning a trip. Everyone's excited, but the destination doesn't appeal to you at all. You had another place in mind, something that genuinely inspired you, but you bite your tongue. You think, better not complicate things, I don't want to be the downer. So you stay quiet. Days go by, you pack your bag, smile in the group chat photos, and act like everything's perfect. But when you get there, you feel it. You're in a place that doesn't move you. You walk through streets that don't stir anything inside you, visit landmarks that mean nothing to you, and nod along with every plan as if it's all amazing. When deep down, all you want is to be somewhere else. The strangest part? No one notices. Everyone thinks you're enjoying it just like them, because you're playing the role. You smile for the photos, say polite things, fake enthusiasm. But inside, a voice keeps saying, "This wasn't my plan. This wasn't my trip, I didn't choose this." And the worst part comes when you get back home. You're physically tired, sure, But what really hits is the emptiness, because it's not just that you spent your time on something that gave you nothing. You also sacrificed your authenticity. You erased yourself just a little more, just to fit in. So what's the solution? Start small. Make a list of your last 5 big decisions. Be honest. Were they truly yours, or were you just trying not to disappoint anyone? Did you choose out of desire or out of fear? And every time you have to decide something, swap the question, what will people think of me? For what will I think of myself tonight? It's a simple shift, but a powerful one. Because at the end of the day, the only opinion that lies down with you at night is your own. And no, this isn't about being selfish or rebelling against everything. It's about something much deeper, taking back control. Truly asking yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because it's expected of me? And if the answer doesn't sit right with you, then maybe you're still only half living. Sometimes all it takes is one single no. One no to remind yourself that you can choose, that you're not here to play a part. You're here to write your story. Now tell me honestly, if everyone else's opinions vanished tomorrow, would you still live the same life? Lesson 30. Take control of your life. Let's be honest. We come into this world alone and we leave it alone. So why the constant need for companionship and approval at every step we take? The Stoics had an answer to this. We've forgotten that our true power doesn't rely on anyone or anything outside of ourselves. Imagine for a moment that your life is like a carriage. Who do you think should be holding the reins? Exactly, you. But instead, you've handed them over to others, to every person you're trying to please, to every expectation you're desperately trying to meet. Believe me, my friend, that's not living. That's letting others steer your destiny. The Stoics understood that living emotionally dependent on others is a form of slavery. Epictetus taught us, no one is free who is not master of himself. If your happiness and inner peace depend on your neighbor's opinion or your partner's approval, you'll never truly be free. Freedom, according to the Stoics, comes from controlling your emotions and decisions, no matter what happens around you. Here's a challenge for you. The next time you feel the urge to please someone, ask yourself, am I living my life or someone else's? Marcus Aurelius left us with a profound lesson in his Meditations. The man who needs little is closest to the gods. This wisdom doesn't just apply to material things, but also to our emotional needs. If you rely on others to feel secure or valuable, you become vulnerable to the whims of the world. But when you learn to live without needing anything more than what's already inside you, you become unshakable. Like a lone mountain standing firm and serene, unbothered by winds or storms, because its strength comes from its deep roots, not from what happens around it. Modern science backs up these ideas. A study from the University of California found that people who develop emotional independence experience lower rates of anxiety and depression. When we don't depend on others, our well-being becomes far more resilient to life's ups and downs. So, my friend, living without depending on others isn't just an ancient philosophy. It's a proven path to a fuller, more stable life. Now let's get practical. How do you start taking those reins? First, reassess your priorities. Ask yourself, what really matters in my life? Am I living according to what I value or just trying to please others? Let's be clear, this step isn't easy. Looking inward and realizing you've been living for others can be uncomfortable, but it's essential. Second, develop your own value system. The Stoics teach us that living by our principles is what grants us freedom. Define what's important to you, not what others say should be. Maybe it's integrity, discipline, or compassion. Make these your guiding stars. Remember, the world will always try to steer you off course, but if your values are solid, nothing and no one can shake you. Third, learn to say no with confidence. You don't need to give long explanations or feel guilty. Saying no to what doesn't serve you is saying yes to your well-being and what truly matters. Ask yourself, is this my path, or am I just following someone else's footsteps? Think about it, my friend. Life is too short to let others control it. It's time to take back those reins and steer your own destiny. It won't be an easy journey, but it will be the only one truly worth taking. So go ahead, take control, set your direction, and live with the freedom that only those who master themselves can experience. I won't lie to you. There will be moments when the road feels too long, when the silence weighs heavier than you expected, and you'll feel like turning back. But that, right there, is the moment your strength is tested. Because walking alone isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about building a future that only you can see right now, but that one day will speak for itself. Every step you take in solitude brings you closer to a place most people never reach, simply because they never dared to take that step. And if this video stirred something inside you, I want you to do one thing. Leave this phrase in the comments as a promise to yourself. I walk in silence, but I will go far. Reaching the end of this video is no accident. It means something in you wants to grow, and that already sets you apart from most. Subscribe and share this video with someone who needs it. That simple gesture helps us keep spreading this message of growth. On screen, you'll find a playlist to go even deeper. Click and let's keep learning together.